You were never told this, but being a good person might be the very thing holding you back. You've spent your life trying to be kind, humble, honest, selfless. You swallow your anger. You say yes when you want to say no. You sacrifice your needs to avoid upsetting others. And deep down, you hope this will finally make people love you, accept you, see your worth. But here's the truth. Many people don't respect kindness. They take advantage of it. And the more you try to be good in the eyes of everyone else, the more you abandon yourself. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." And while that may sound cold at first, what he was really doing was stripping away illusions, showing us that morality, as society defines it, often hides fear. Fear of rejection, of being disliked, of not belonging. So ask yourself this: are you really good? Or are you just afraid? And what happens when you stop performing and start becoming real? This isn't a call to be cruel. It's a call to stop being obedient for survival and start being authentic for freedom. Because pretending to be good might earn applause, but owning your truth, that's what sets you free.
Here's something uncomfortable. Most people don't try to be good out of love. They do it out of fear. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of conflict. Fear of appearing selfish. So they build a mask, a smile, a careful version of themselves that no one will reject. They think, if I'm nice enough, polite enough, agreeable enough, people will treat me well. But the world doesn't reward people for being harmless. It rewards people who are clear, grounded, and unafraid of rejection. And Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He didn't write for monsters, he wrote for people tired of being eaten alive by false ideals. In The Prince, he says, "A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good." In other words, if you live by an ideal that others don't follow, you will become their prey. Have you ever noticed how the most good people are often the most drained, manipulated, or overlooked? That's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. Because being good doesn't protect you. Being real does. The more you bend yourself to fit expectations, the more you lose access to your inner strength. Your instincts dull. Your voice shakes. You hesitate to draw boundaries, to say no, to take up space. And slowly, you disappear. But what if that version of you, the one who always pleases, avoids conflict, and keeps the peace, isn't the real you at all? What if it's just a survival strategy you were forced to master?
Let's go deeper. If you trace your need to be good all the way back, you'll often find a child who learned that love had to be earned. A child who was only praised when they behaved, stayed quiet, helped others, or didn't make things difficult. Somewhere along the way, being agreeable became your armor. Not because you were born that way, but because it was safer. You weren't taught to be yourself. You were taught to be what others needed. And now, as an adult, you call that being good. But what it really is self-abandonment disguised as virtue. Machiavelli never said goodness is wrong. He simply said, if it comes at the expense of your power, it becomes dangerous. You cannot love others while hating your own boundaries. You cannot speak truth while addicted to being liked. You cannot be whole while living split between who you are and who they want. So maybe it's time to stop asking, am I being a good person? And start asking, am I being an honest one?
Because real integrity has nothing to do with approval. It begins the moment you stop betraying yourself. And if this is already making something inside you shift, maybe it's a sign to stay with this message. Subscribe for more slow, deep reflections like this, because the work of becoming whole takes time and courage. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be real.
There's a cost to constantly being nice, and most people never calculate it. You become exhausted, resentful, invisible. You overthink every word. You replay conversations in your head. You apologize for things that weren't your fault. And slowly, you start to feel like life is happening to you, not with you. Why? Because when you suppress your truth to maintain peace, you don't avoid conflict, you just internalize it. You fight with yourself instead. You smile when you want to scream. You agree when your whole body says no. You support people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. And eventually, your soul gets tired of pretending. Machiavelli warned us about this. The reason there will be no change is because the people who stand to lose from change have all the power, and the people who stand to gain from change have none. When you always try to be liked, you hand over your power, and those who benefit from your silence will never ask you to speak. They like the version of you who doesn't challenge, doesn't demand, doesn't set limits. That version is easier to manipulate. But here's the twist. The more you play nice, the more you attract people who don't respect you. They just use you. And the moment you stop performing, they get uncomfortable. Not because you've changed, but because you've stopped being convenient. So the question is, are you ready to lose those who only loved the version of you that wasn't real?
Most people aren't trying to be good. They're trying not to be abandoned. That's the root. Underneath the smiles, the kindness, the endless people-pleasing, there's often a terrified inner child who still believes, if I disappoint them, they'll leave. If I say what I really feel, they'll stop loving me. So you don't speak up. You don't take space. You don't risk conflict. You call it compassion, but it's actually fear wearing a mask of morality. And that's what Machiavelli wanted us to question. He wasn't telling us to be cruel. He was showing us how deeply fear manipulates human behavior. In truth, many people who look kind are living in survival mode. They scan every room, they anticipate everyone's needs, they walk on emotional eggshells. And no one ever sees it because they've made anxiety look like generosity. But it's not sustainable. The body keeps score, the mind burns out, the soul begins to ache. And one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize who you are anymore, just the version of you that was shaped by everyone else's comfort. So let me ask you again, are you truly good, or are you terrified of being unloved? Because the most dangerous prison is the one we decorate with praise and approval. Take a moment and really ask yourself, who are you when no one's watching? When there's no applause to earn, no role to play, no image to protect? Do you even recognize that version of yourself? Or have you spent so long trying to be good in everyone else's story that you forgot how to be real in your own? You see, the world teaches you early, be agreeable, be kind, don't upset anyone. And slowly, you trade your truth for safety. You stop being a person and start becoming a performance. But here's the problem. A performance can be admired, but never truly loved. Because love requires truth. And you can't be loved for who you are if you never show who that is. Machiavelli wasn't asking us to become ruthless. He was asking us to become awake, to notice how easily the desire to be good becomes a tool of control. He showed us that sometimes doing what's right doesn't look nice. It looks like disappointing others, saying no, disrupting comfort, walking away. It looks like having the strength to be disliked in order to be free.
So again, I ask you, when the masks fall away, who do you become? And are you willing to meet that version of yourself, even if the world doesn't applaud? Because that's where your real life begins.
What if the goal was never to be a good person? What if the real goal is to be a whole person? There's a difference, and it's everything. Being good often means being nice, polite, compliant, pleasing. But being whole means being honest, grounded, and emotionally true, even when it's uncomfortable. Wholeness says, I will be kind, but I will also be clear. I will be open, but I will have limits. I will care for others, but I won't abandon myself in the process. This is what integrity looks like. Not perfection, not people-pleasing, but inner alignment. And the truth is, the world doesn't need more good people who are secretly full of resentment, exhaustion, and silent rage. It needs real people. People who are honest enough to feel what they feel and brave enough to say it. Machiavelli understood this paradox. He knew that appearing virtuous meant nothing if it came at the cost of your strength, your truth, your clarity. He wasn't promoting manipulation. He was rejecting self-deception. Because a person who only knows how to please is easily controlled. But a person who knows how to stay whole, even in discomfort, is powerful. And maybe that's what you're being called into now. Not more goodness, but more courage. You don't have to become cold. You don't have to become harsh, but you do have to become clear. Clarity is what protects you, not niceness. When you live just to be liked, people can pull you in any direction. One guilt trip, one disapproving look, one silent treatment, and you fold. Not because you're weak, but because you were trained to believe that upsetting others makes you bad. So you adjust. You smile through it. You sacrifice your peace to keep the room calm. But that's not virtue. It's fear. And that fear makes you easy to manipulate. Machiavelli understood this. Power doesn't come from aggression. It comes from the ability to hold your ground without needing everyone to agree. So how do you stop being controlled without becoming someone you're not? You start by creating inner boundaries. You stop explaining your worth. You stop apologizing for your truth. You stop shrinking just to keep others comfortable. You realize that protecting your energy is not cruelty. It's wisdom. Because the world taught you that love is earned by shrinking. But real love, honest love, doesn't ask you to become less. It meets you where you are, even when you're not easy. So no, you don't have to stop caring, but you do have to stop performing. Kindness without clarity is self-destruction. And the moment you start choosing yourself, even gently, everything changes. When you stop trying to be good and start trying to be whole, something surprising happens. People get uncomfortable because the good version of you was predictable, safe, easy to understand, easy to control. But the whole version of you is raw, unpredictable, real. You begin to say what you think, set boundaries without guilt, choose your own needs without apology. And some people don't like it. They liked the version of you who fit their story, who kept the peace, who never challenged. But the truth is, the whole you doesn't need everyone's approval, because you finally see, approval isn't the goal, freedom is. Machiavelli's lessons remind us that power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about the courage to be disliked. And the paradox is this:
The more you are real, the more you will attract those who value you, and the more you will repel those who don't. This is not rejection, it's selection. Because in the end, being whole isn't for everyone. It's only for those brave enough to meet themselves honestly.
You've been trying to be good your whole life, trying to fit a mold that wasn't made for you, trying to earn love, approval, safety. But the truth is, that path leads to exhaustion, resentment, and silence. Machiavelli didn't tell us to abandon morality. He told us to abandon illusion, to see the world and ourselves without masks. Because real freedom doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from owning your truth, from saying no when you mean no, from standing tall when the crowd wants you to bow. Being free means being whole. It means being enough, exactly as you are. So, stop trying to be good. Stop bending to survive. Start being you. Because when you do, the right people will come. The right opportunities will come. And most importantly, you will come home to yourself. This is the lesson from Machiavelli. Not cruelty, not manipulation, but radical honesty, radical authenticity. And that honesty, that's the greatest power you'll ever have.